What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. More team announcements coming out for round 2 of the Six Nations, which means we're going to be taking a look at the teams and giving some thoughts and reaction to them. This one's for England versus France. Le Crunch coming in there. I always enjoy this fixture. We've already done one of these for Italy versus Wales, so you can go check that one out on the channel after this one if you haven't already. But we'll jump straight into it because a lot to talk about. Some big switch-ups coming in for both sides. Some good, some forced. And we'll get straight into it. Starting out with this England team then. Home team going into this one. Last week lost to Ireland, 27-22. Made a little note for myself down there. 5 points in it at the end. Yet again, another one of those stories. I said it in the last preview video about this England team, how it's been, over the course of the last year, they've put performances in, but not doing enough to get the result. And it felt a bit like that again last week. I don't think Ireland were in full gear for that game. There were certainly times in that first half where England looked solid. And I was like, oh, they've turned up for this one. I've got this wrong by calling for an Ireland win. And that second half began to drop off. And there was just sections of time where they just looked like things weren't really going according to plan. And Ireland just have a slightly better winning mentality and were able to just take control of that game. And once they did, I just saw it going one way by the end of it. England this week making some changes along the way and switching up the personnel, which is quite interesting because Steve Borthwick's talked so much about consistency, keeping the team the same, keeping the mentality the same, game plans the same, build on the Lego brick building sort of technique. Yet changes coming into personnel and switching players around, which is an interesting call going up against a team like France, who certainly one of the favourites going in for this Six Nations off the back of a massive win versus Wales last week. So in the front row, no changes here. Ellis Genge, Luke Cowan-Dickie and Will Stewart. Now the scrummaging last week, I've got to try and catch my mind, but they went up against Ireland. Ireland always a big team for the physicality and trying to take on the set piece area. France didn't do as well as I expected against Wales in terms of the scrum, even with some monsters in the French scrumming department. So England might really want to try and target that area just to see if they could get the upper hand there. Being able to take that away from France is a big boost, because there's so much of their attack can come off of a random set piece, off of a scrum, off a line out. If you can just take that little edge away from them, it'll be really good for them. But there were a couple of times last week where England were getting pinged. Ellis Genge got done for a couple, right, where it was him against Finlay Bealham, and it kept collapsing. The refs kept awarding it towards Finlay Bealham. So they're always going to push on both sides, right to the letter of the law. What you can do, you just don't want to be the guy they're isolating as the person getting things wrong, especially against a French scrum that if they take the lead, they'll start really beginning to punish you. Lock department the same as well. Maro Itoje going in alongside of George Martin. Captaincy for Maro Itoje last week. Again, as I said in the preview video last week, it's about the discipline. You're the captain now. You're the one who's got to be, absolutely squeaky clean, leading from the front. Couple of penalties going against Maro Itoje, and he has to come over and have a conversation with it. You don't want any of that nonsense going on, especially against France. Ramos, is he missing that many kicks? Really? No. He's going to take those 3 points. You can't afford to offer it to Ramos if that gets there. So discipline, keeping in control. The French line-out departments, it's certainly got a lot of good jumpers as well. So these boys got to be on the top of their game. Back row, where we see our first switch-ups then. Tom Curry going in 6. Ben Earl moves to the 7. And Tom Willis comes in at 8. Now, Ben Earl, I think, has had a very good career so far at the number 8. My understanding is that Ben Earl actually prefers open side flanker. That's actually the position he wants. But England have always gone from it the number 8, and I really love the hard ball carrying that he brings to the team from the 8 shirt. So switching that up and bringing Tom Willis in now at an 8, it brings you 2 players who effectively can play 8 well onto the field. Ben Earl certainly good at being able to do the breakdown stuff that you expect from an open side flanker, but also just the ball carrying to be able to take it up into the French line. The French defence is solid. You've got to be able to make meters after contact, and that's where Wales were really struggling against France. So having Ben Earl and Tom Willis on for extra just carrying strength, I don't think is a bad move at all. Halfback partnership, Alex Mitchell going in alongside Finn Smith this week. Now, somehow, I don't know how this came out. I read about this about 3 days ago. That was said, England set to do Finn Smith at 10, Marcus Smith at fullback. I don't know how that gets out. I don't know when these teams are sort of preliminary made or who leaks that out. I read that about 3 days ago, and I was like, well, that would be an interesting call. To chuck Marcus Smith in there for, I don't know what he's on, 4 or 5 starts maybe at fullback. and Finn Smith certainly low on caps. It's a big team to go up against France. A lot of pressure on this young lad Finn Smith to make an impact at 10. Interesting to see how he gets on. Centre partnership, Henry Slade once again going alongside Ollie Lawrence. I thought Ollie Lawrence carrying well last week. Didn't target Prendergast as much as I was hoping to see him. I really thought off of like a line out or off of a scrum, they would send Ollie Lawrence straight at Sam Prendergast and try and just, a youngster lower caps. That's the sort of lad you want to send someone like Ollie Lawrence at and test his defence and put him, in the sort of nervous zone. Didn't do it quite that much. There was a couple of carries that went straight up the 10 channel, but not as many as I wanted to see. Henry Slade at 12. There was a couple of issues still with passing. I've still not been set on this English centre partnership. I'm not even sure who I would want to go in to fix it, to be honest. But they've really sort of tried to keep Henry Slade in that 12. Let me know your thoughts on the English centres down in the comment section as well, because I do enjoy reading other people's thoughts on it. And then this back three. Ollie Slightome coming in alongside Tommy Freeman and Marcus Smith at fullback. Ollie Slightome should be making big inroads. We had Caden, I can't think what his name is. I can't think the other English, the winger who played last week, Caden something. It's gone out my head completely as soon as I've said it now. He got over for his try, and then it all went wrong. Murley? Is it Caden Murley? Have I just made that up? But yeah, it started going wrong afterwards. It's his debut, right? You're not expecting him to have this flawless international game against Ireland. Is a big ask, but they certainly look to punish that wing. Ollie Slightome came in sort of last year really into this England team and made enormous inroads into being able to take that 11 shirt and make it his. Very glad to see him back. He was out with his own little injury, which is what caused him to miss the first game. So I'm glad to see that he's back in now. Tommy Freeman hopefully going to have a good game on that right wing. Another one that can carry the ball hard and can make inroads, but I've not quite seen him hit the top tier international caliber that you wanted to see that progression towards. He's just sort of a steady pair of hands at the minute. I think if you gave me the option, I would, if he was available, Faye Boso, I think I would still be leaning towards him for that 14 shirt, even though Tommy Freeman, a lot more size on him. He's a big old unit. But I've seen more from Faye Boso so far in the 14 shirt. Marcus Smith, a fullback, big call. They've gone through their dribs and drabs of the fullback, Freddie Stewart, or they've got George Furbank, now Marcus Smith going in. Maybe they're looking to be able to press someone like Marcus Smith up into the attacking line when you get those turnovers. He certainly likes to carry the ball himself. We'll see how that gets on for England against France, who love a good kicking game. They love testing the backfield and going for those crossfield kicks. So Marcus Smith going to have to be on point going in at fullback this week. Replacements: Jamie George coming back into the team after missing his first round through his own injury himself, back in the squad. Finn Baxter, Joe Hayes going alongside them. Ollie Chesham, Chandler Cunningham himself, and Ben Curry going for the 6-2. Seeing the physicality that France brought last week, and they just don't want to lose out to the French forward pack, so maybe they're loading up on the 6-2. Is it the right move? It's quite tough. Being able to defend the maul, Julien Marchand got over his try on the driving maul against Wales, which is one of their main strengths with the defensive driving maul. They really held out France for a long time, but Julien Marchand came in and changed that game up a bit. So being able to have slightly more forwards to stop that sort of angle against you, it's maybe a good move for them. But France also love their expansive play. Having more forwards when suddenly France are going to keep kicking wide and doing the crossfield kicks and throwing it out the back, suddenly it doesn't have that much of an impact. I might have looked to have gone for 5-3 and just had a lot of faith in the forwards to be able to deal with the defensive maul, but they've gone 6-2. We'll see how it gets on. And then finishing up, Harry Randall and Elliot Daly coming in. The ultimate super sub that is Elliot Daly, just for positional coverage for anyone who's seen me do all the different rugby games or when we talked about fantasy stuff. Elliot Daly just can do any position basically in the backs. He's got his long range kicking. If it comes down to a narrow scoreline, you've got an absolute cannon leg. Maybe not the accuracy, but certainly range. Can play centre, can play wing, can play fullback. Maybe you'd have a crack at 10. I don't know if you wanted to. Really got a lot of coverage. Gives you the option for the 6-2 to work well because you have someone on the bench who can cover so many positions. I think that's a good choice of a player to be able to bring on in the second half. Moving on to their opponents then, France, who last week had a phenomenal game. In all honesty, weirdly, the performance overall, I remember thinking, watch that game going, this doesn't feel like France at their best. They're not really getting everything right. And it didn't feel like they were taking the game as seriously as I wanted them to. There was a lot of flinging the ball around. It was a lot more exhibition stuff. You think if they actually just sorted themselves out and went, let's just go through phase here. I think they score more. I think they get even more points in that game. 43-0 is a great scoreline. Sean Edwards will be immensely happy with the defence that they managed to hold out to not concede anything in that game. And, there isn't really a lot of negatives to put on a French team when they win 43-0 against Wales. But, teams, the professional rugby teams, right? You've got to look for the improvements. You've got to look for what can be changed. Certainly a few things going against them. Red card for Roman Ntamack, which, yes, it's just a red card, a bizarre decision making from an experienced number 10. No need for the shot at all. It was just I was quite surprised it wasn't just given as a red. Honestly, I saw it immediately and that's just a red card. I don't know why he's done that. They gave it a yellow card bunker review and it was upgraded to a red. I don't really know why they don't do just that. That's clearly just a red card now. We know the rules, whether you want it to be or not. In the rules, it is a red card, right? So silly decision making like that, and a couple of experienced players doing some questionable things. Antoine Dupont had a good game, but there was a couple of occasions where you just sort of went, "What's he doing? Just calm down. You will score tries against Wales. You don't need to be pushing it this extra mile. Go through the phases. A try will come." And against a team like England, who at the minute are just ahead of Wales, you want to see that calm down. Just be a bit more clinical. Go through the phases. Go through the way you need to progress in this game, because there'll be harder teams to play in this tournament than Wales, and I don't think you'll get away with as much sort of mistakes or throwing the ball around like that. But still a really good scoreline and some changes coming in for them that I actually think improve the team overall. Let's go through it then. Jean-Baptiste Gros going alongside Mavaka and Antonio in that front row. And Jean-Baptiste Gros, ooh, that's a hell of a game. I remember seeing that Cyril Bay was on the bench, and Cyril Bay is the guy for me in that loose head position for France. I thought Gros had a really good game. I thought he carried extremely well throughout that one, and thought, oh, hang on, maybe Cyril Bay's competing for that number one shirt to be in the starting team. Lock department then, Rumak going back in alongside Maafu, who, the lock department did okay against Wales. They certainly, Wales lineout's not great anyway, so it's sometimes it shifts the percentage stats across a little bit, but they certainly kept the Wales lineout, into some questions there. Would like to see a bit more running. It's a shame, we don't have the likes of someone like Thibaut Flamand, who I just think has been so good. Ruma, I think they did okay in the lock department. It's going to be a bigger test going up against England this week. Back row, Francois Cross going in alongside of Paul Boudehon and Gregory Aldrit. No changes needed here. Paul Boudehon, I was so sad that he didn't able to get his try. I thought he did such great work at being able to chase down that ball. Couldn't quite get on the end of getting his own try. I thought he had another good game. Gregory Aldrit, man of the match last week, and I think deserved. I think he was really, really on top of his game. That was a great game for the number 8. Hardback partnership switching up then. Antoine Dupont, who still had you always expect Antoine Dupont to have a good game, but partnering now with Matteo Jalibert with Roman Ntamack out. Big, opportunity now to just, take back over that number 10 shirt. They've mixed it around a lot, right? Ntamack, Jalibert, Ramos, they can all go in at 10. If Ntamack's going to do silly things, this is where Jalibert wants to get in, control the game, put yourself as like, I'm the 10 that you want in here, even if Ntamack finishes his red card sanction, what have you. Keep me in at 10, keep Ramos at 15. I think it'll work well for them still. Just got to keep control of the game. Centre partnership, Mo Farah going in alongside of Barassi. Once again, no real massive negatives or enormous positives for me from the game from Wales. I was trying to keep an eye out for both these. At one point, forgot Mo Farah was playing. It did dawn on me while it was going. I was like, who is the inside set? Is it Jonathan Darcy? It's not, because he's been quiet. And I realised it was Mo Farah. I thought, this nearly not done quite as much as I was expecting. Barassi did okay as well. Looking for a big midfield performance for these two lads, because Ollie Lawrence is going to charge straight at these boys. You've got to be defensively on it. They're going to have a much tougher time in this game than going up against Owen Watkin with his injury and Nick Tompkins, who I don't think has been particularly great last week either. So that'll be an area I'll be keeping an eye on personally in this French centre, just to see how they can step up for this game. But this back three, they're back to full strength now. Louis Bielbiarri goes in alongside of Damien Penaud and Thomas Ramos in the fullback shirt. That's a big back three. Ata Sogbe got 2 tries last week, and did he get a hat-trick? No, I think he got 2 tries, right? Looking good, looking strong on that wing, but sometimes tries handed to him on a plate, right? Some great decision making by some other players to just get him the ball and let him go over. They punish that right wing all day long. Damien Penaud is another guy who'll do exactly the same. Slight down going in on his wing as well, maybe lower in caps when you look at, someone like Damien Pinot, certainly up there for caps, right? It's a big back three challenge. That's a loaded team. I think it's going to work potentially pretty well for them. Replacements for France then. Julien Marchand goes in alongside of Cyril Bay and Georges-Henri Colombe. Arodou, Gillard and Jegu coming back in. So they've gone for that 6-2 once again that worked oh so well against Wales in that second half. Nolan Le Garec and Galton coming in that second half as well. And Le Garec doing he's almost got like a signature move now with his out the back. But he loves it. He loves getting in there. I enjoy to see some different things from this French team. And you've got someone like Antoine Dupont. You've got to have something that can separate you out. And it's nice to see that he's not just sort of following the footsteps. He's bringing something of his own. It's a bit more dangerous. It's a bit more wild. But if he pulls it off, it does look very, very fantastic. So overall, it's a strong set of players to come on in that. So, it's just lower caps mainly to come on in that second half that makes you put a little bit of a question mark, but I'm certainly believing they'll probably do well. Predictions for this game then. Playing it at home, and I'm going to keep calling it Twickenham because I just call it Twickenham anyway, but playing at home for England, certainly look to give them a good advantage. But it was, 2 years ago now where France had that massive win against England in the Six Nations as well. France can really turn it up against England. England have been the team for the last year that do turn up to games, and it's not been enough to seal it out. They play for 40 minutes really quite well, and then it sort of just peters out, and that's where other teams just take the full advantage. For me, I'm going to go for a France win. And I'm wondering if they'll just sort themselves out and just go through the phases a bit more. They'll look for penalties, which they just didn't do last week. They weren't looking for those 3 points. I think this week they will against England. Just put some scores on early. I'm going to say France to win. I'm going to go a little bit. I was going to say about 10, but I might go a little bit more. Let's go wild. Why not? Let's go. I'll go France by 15. It's going to be my prediction of this one. They took 43 against Wales last week. England lost by 5, but I think Ireland really dropped off towards the end of that game. I think Ireland could have taken that one by more, really. I'm going to go France by 15. Going to be my prediction. Make sure you drop down in the comment section your own score predictions, your own thoughts on the team, anyone you would have changed along the way in those squads. I always enjoy having a read through of the comment sections. Make sure you check out the other team announcements for this round. Make sure you're locking in your fantasy teams and all that good stuff now that we've started getting the team announcements out. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.